Hey guys, it's Becca and it's Labor Day 2019. My mom's flown home and she's spending some quality time with my stepdad, and my family and I are taking the day to just kind of relax and unwind. We spent the morning doing some chores around the house, and now we've got a little bit of free time. I'm choosing to spend my free time in the basement working on my very first tutorial for my YouTube channel ever. Now, in choosing the project that I walk you through, I wanted to make sure I chose something that I could explain very easily, and I wanted the project to be easy to understand, so we're going to make what I call a quick and easy zipper pouch. This project features a zipper. The inside of the bag is lined, but the seams are exposed, and it is the perfect size to keep down in your purse to catch all of your loose items or work as a pencil bag. I've whipped these up countless times over the past 3 or 4 years, and they always get gobbled up by friends and family and loved ones because they love them as a zipper bag for pencils, crayons, markers, or other loose items inside their purse. What's it look like? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is one that I made about 3 or 4 years ago. It's held up very well. And the steps I'm going to take you through making this should make sure that yours lasts about the same amount of time. It does have a zipper on there, but don't worry. I've got some tips and tricks to help make installing that zipper a breeze. The inside of the bag, as I mentioned, is lined, and so you can kind of see it there. It's lined with the same fabric that's on the outside because of how we're going to assemble it together. The seams are exposed, and I'll just show you really quick. This is what the seams inside my bag look like after about 3 or 4 years. Can't remember what year I made it, but it's been a few years ago. When we put ours together, we'll probably seal it with a zigzag stitch, which will keep that fraying over time to a minimum. Now, one last thing. Let me tell you what you need to put this together. Are you ready? Get a pen and paper handy because this is a long list of items. You're going to need 1 fat quarter and 1 9-inch zip or bigger. That's it. Of course, you're going to need all of your other sewing notions and supplies, a machine, something to cut fabric with, whether it's scissors, rotary cutter, and a ruler, whatever it is that makes your little heart happy, you're going to need all those sewing notions. But the project supplies is 1 fat quarter and 1 zipper measured at 9 inches or bigger. Now for the zipper, I'm going to give you a pro tip. You should choose a polyester or nylon zipper. You can get these at Joann's. Don't choose a metal one. And the reason for that is because you'll be able to cut the zipper down to size and sew over the teeth without breaking your needle. All right, so that's it. Let's flip the camera around and get started. Okay. The first thing you're going to want to do is get your materials. You need your zipper and your fabric. Now your fat quarter, you're going to want to cut into 3 pieces of fabric. You want fabric A to be cut at 7 inches by 6 inches, fabric B to be cut at 7 inches by 10 inches, and then fabric C to be cut at 7 inches by 15 inches. And once you've cut each of those pieces of fabric, you want to take them and line up that 7-inch raw edge piece and press a crease directly in the middle of that piece of fabric for all 3 of those. So this is my fabric C, this is my fabric B, and this is my fabric A. Make sense? Good, let's move on. Here's a little tip for you. This pattern is actually best made when you're using with non-directional fabric. But if you do have some directional fabric, you want to be a little careful in planning how you're going to cut it out your pieces. My fabric is directional going this way, and so I just wanted to make sure that my 7-inch was cut along the same way. I didn't want to rotate it so that a 7-inch was going this way because then my squiggly lines would look a little different. Okay, we're halfway done, guys. I know it's super, super quick, super, super easy, right? Let's take a look at how to install the zipper. For this step, we're going to work with our zipper, our fabric A, and our fabric B. You can set fabric C aside for now. I'm going to assume that you've sewn before and you know how to sew a zipper on. The pro tip that I have for you is that you don't need to assemble the fabric traditionally, where you line up the edge of the zipper tape, the edge of the fabric, sew, and then fold it backwards and top stitch it into place. The pro tip is, because you've placed that crease in the fabric, we're just going to place that crease that we just pressed right up against the zipper teeth. We're going to do that for fabric A and fabric B. And so let me orient this so that it looks right to you. You want fabric B to be at the bottom of the zipper with the fold along the teeth of the zipper, and fabric A to be at the top of the zipper with the fold to be pushing towards the teeth. So you'll have raw edge, fold, zipper teeth, fold, raw edge. Now, if you have a tip or a trick that you use for installing zippers, feel free to implement that here. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to position my zipper so that the metal piece is outside of where I want to sew, because I don't want to deal with that in the construction of my bag. You'll see that the entire 7 inches of my fabric, there is no metal stop on my nylon zipper, and the head of the zipper is pushed all the way outside of the frame of the bag. I'm going to take this to my machine one piece at a time. It doesn't matter which one you start with. And I'm just going to make sure that this crease is butted up against the teeth and sew as close as I can to the edge of that fold all the way down. And then once that's done, I'm going to take this other piece of fabric, line up the edges so that they match fabric B, and I'm going to sew along this edge of the fabric, and when I come back into frame, all of this will be one piece. Okay, my zipper is fully installed, and remember, finished is the key, not perfection. So I'm just going to show you. My stitches aren't exactly perfect, and at one point during this, I actually veered off of the fabric and came back onto the zipper. But you know what? I just went back to my machine, started a little ways before I veered off, and re-stitched it so that everything is nice and secured to the zipper. If you're looking at this from the right direction, your zipper head should be up and the folds of your fabric should be here, and you're not able to see the back of the zipper tape. If you're looking at it from this direction, you'll want to flip it over. The next step will have our bag fully assembled, and what that's going to do is allow us to sew our fabric C right onto the top of our fabric A-B zipper combination. But before we do that, we want to set fabric C aside for just a second, grab the head of our zipper and pull it in so that it's inside of the bag somewhere. This is going to allow us to turn this bag right side out without any trouble. If you sew and the head of the zipper is outside of the fabric, you're going to have a heck of a time turning this, because you're going to have to rip a hole in the seam that you just created and then turn it that way and then stitch it closed. This is going to prevent all of that. Also, pro tip for you, you'll notice that I pulled my zipper about 3/4 of the way open. I would suggest you do the same. The bigger the hole is between the zipper head and the edge of the fabric, the more room you're going to have to get your hand in here to flip the bag. Just be careful that this head is not within a 1/2 inch over here, because otherwise you're going to have a heck of a time sewing, because you're going to hit this zipper head when you're sewing the bag together. Okay, let's take our last step. We're going to take fabric C and we're going to position it right on top of our project. Now you'll notice my fabric C does not extend all the way to the bottom or the top, because this is smaller than my assembled A-B combination. So if I pull this back, you can kind of see that this piece is bigger. It doesn't matter whether you align the bottom, the top, or float it right in the middle. Just keep in mind that how you lay out fabric C on top of this is going to change slightly the position of the zipper. Here's what I'm going to do if you just like to follow along. I'm going to align the bottom edges here, and I'm going to make sure that everything is nice and snug. I'm going to flip this over so I can see this from the back side for just a minute, because I want to make sure that my zipper teeth are butted up against one another when I'm sewing this. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to. I'm going to take my Wonder Clips and just clip a couple areas to kind of keep this nice and secure. Most importantly, I want to make sure that this area where my zipper teeth are open stays somewhat together, and then this area stays together. There we go. I'm not gonna sew from this side because I've got this shorter edge. I'm going to sew from the side where I can see fabric C. Remember, that's the smaller of the two big pieces. I'm not going to see my zipper at all, but I'm not worried about that because I made sure that my zipper head was well inside the bag. So I'm going to take this to my machine, and following the edge of fabric C, I'm going to sew this at about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to do that around the entire outside of the bag. Let's go to the machine, and when I come back, I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, I've sewn my fabric C onto my fabric AB zipper combination, and if you're looking at the bag, it probably looks a whole lot of wrong if you've never sewn a bag together before. You're probably thinking, how do I use this? Well, it's really easy. We're gonna turn it through this hole, but before we do, we wanna take 2 steps that's really gonna make this bag last a bit longer. The first thing we're gonna do is trim all of our seams and our zipper tape, obviously. I'm going to grab a ruler and a rotary blade, and I'm just going to line up my ruler at about a 1/4 inch seam, and I'm just going to trim this down. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to make sure that you're leaving some of that seam there. And when you sewed this, you didn't have to do it at a perfect 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can do a little bit more, a little bit less. The important thing is that your seam is just straight, so make it as straight as you can. Trust me, this bag is very forgiving. Now, keep in mind when I'm trimming this, I'm measuring from my seam, not from the edge of the fabric. So I'm just lining my 1/4 inch line up on the seam of the bag and trimming. So there's my trimmed up bag, but we're gonna do one more thing that's really gonna make this last a bit longer. I'm gonna take this back to my machine, and now that I have a uniform size, it doesn't matter whether I do this from the side where I see the zipper or the side where I don't. And I'm just gonna sew a zigzag around all 4 sides of the fabric. This is the last step we're gonna need our sewing machine for. We've got all the seams sewn, and we've got our zigzag around all 4 sides, and what that's gonna do is really help your bag reduce the amount of fraying in the seam lines over time. If you want to make it a little bit cleaner, you can take your scissors and snip any loose threads that you might see, but because I know the inside of this bag is gonna fray some inside, I'm not worried about it. Now we're gonna flip it over so we see the back of the zipper. We're just gonna reach our hand inside and turn the bag right side out. Now, if you're familiar with constructing a bag, you'll notice I did not cut the bulk in the corners of my bag, and that's just because I don't care enough about how pointy those corners are. But if you wanted to do that, you could definitely snip the corners of your bag to make those corners nice and pointy. I'm just going to use my finger to make them point as much as I can, and we're gonna call it good enough. Okay, give it a final pat to take the shape you wanna give it, and then pull off any loose threads you might see. If you see some sticking out, feel free to snip them. And there you go. That is your finished quick and easy zipper pouch. We're all done. That took you what, maybe 10 minutes altogether? Not bad, right? And now you have your very own quick and easy zipper pouch, and you know how to make these. So if you want to whip up a bunch of them and give them away as gifts, go for it. If you like this tutorial and you'd like to see more like that, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave me a comment down below and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.